What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your NFL Week 3 picks, straight up and versus the spread. In this video, I'll break down every single Week 3 matchup, give you my picks, and break down these games heading into week number 3. As we discuss every week, week 1 is a week where we feel it out and try not to overreact. In week 2, we adjust to what we saw in week 1, but not too much. So now in week number 3, we're trying to take our previous predictions from the preseason and correctly adjust those as we continue to move into this new season in 2021. So in week 3, we're starting to get an indication of what these teams are going to be. But I will say, the NFL has changed over the past 5 to 10 years in terms of how much the first month of the season indicates what the team is going to be at the end of the year. Obviously, what we've seen over the past year or so, especially last year with the whole fiasco of the offseason, that changed a lot. Right? You look at a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they didn't really truly develop until late in the year. So there might still be a couple of those teams that get much, much better at the end of the year. But I think this is closer to a normal year as opposed to last year where it's going to be, more probably indicative of what they are closer to the beginning than what we saw last year. So before I get started with my picks and before I pick every game in the NFL on the NFL Week 3 slate, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more BLV NFL vids just like this. Spike that notification bell to know when I'm going live, because every single week we are here live on Wednesdays. So, guys, let's break it down. Let's talk some football. Let me know in the comments which game you're most excited for this week, which game you're looking forward to the most this week, and how you think your team is going to do this week in week number 3. And definitely there's a lot of good games this week. I think, when we look at it compared to last week, there's a lot of marquee matchups across the board. Right up top, I will let you guys know which games I'm streaming. I've already decided on those games. So the 1 p.m. game, Eastern time, obviously I always refer to things in Eastern time because I know most of you are in that time zone. So in terms of Eastern time zone, the 1 p.m. slot, I will be doing the live stream for the New England Patriots and the New Orleans Saints. I'm just going to continue this Patriots trend, doing these Patriots games because a lot of people have been enjoying them. A lot of people have been watching them. So as long as that keeps happening, I'm going to keep doing it. So Saints, Patriots, the first game, the first window of games, that's the game I'll be streaming. As for the second game, I'm going to be doing the LA Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the game of the week this week. That's one of the best games early in this NFL schedule. So that's the game I'll be doing. Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady going at it in LA. That's going to be a great game. So those are the 2 games I'll be streaming this week. What's going on, everybody? Rob's in the chat, sports fan. Keandre Brown is in the chat. Steeler Nation, always making fun of me for not liking the Steelers. James is in the chat, Mr. Tom Brady fan himself. D Money, what's going on, D Money? What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining me here live. We will get to questions and any comments. If I see a good one, I'll, of course, plop it into the conversation every once in a while. But let's get these picks started. Let's waste no more time, and let's go. All right, so on Thursday Night Football, we have the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. This game is in Houston. This is the debut of Davis Mills, the young rookie, 3rd-round pick by the Houston Texans. Tyrod Taylor, unfortunately, that guy is so unlucky. Unfortunately, Tyrod Taylor is out and out for a while. Davis Mills will be the quarterback with no sight of Deshaun Watson anytime soon. I think the Panthers are a good team. I think the Panthers are a playoff caliber team. And if they are that, there is no way, no how that they lose to the Houston Texans. Yes, the Houston Texans have impressed me. They've been better than we thought. They've been better than expectation, but they still have lost every game they've played. All right? This game, I don't expect that to change. If Tyrod Taylor were in this game, I would be very intrigued by it. I think the Texans would definitely provide some entertainment if Tyrod Taylor were the quarterback. But he is not the quarterback. Tyrod Taylor, I got to give him credit. He's played better than I thought he would play, right? He played great versus the Cleveland Browns. He only had one incompletion. And in week 1, he was very good versus the Jacksonville Jags in a win, right? So 1-1 Texans, 2-0 Carolina Panthers. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers here. I think they win pretty comfortably. I think the Panthers defense is really what I hang my hat on in this matchup. They've got a great front seven. Derek Brown's a beast. Morgan Fox, one of the most underrated free agent pickups. As I discussed in the offseason, great signing from them, taking him from the Rams to the Panthers. And then you got Hassan Reddick on the opposite side of Brian Burns. It's a nightmare matchup for the Texans' offensive line. I expect the Panthers versus a young quarterback to turn the football over, get it in the hands of Sam Darnold, who's playing good football, efficient football. DJ Moore's a beast. CMC's doing his thing. I think the Panthers win. It might be somewhat ugly at the start. Maybe the Panthers don't quite get it going offensively. Maybe they do. But I think the Panthers should win this one pretty comfortably. I'm going to say they win 27-10 in this matchup. So I will ultimately take the Panthers to win and to cover, although I would suggest to not bet this game. This is why you got to subscribe to Patreon, guys. I'm just letting you know right now, okay? $5 on Patreon per month. You could make a lot more than $5. If you get that gambling package on my Patreon, I told you guys to take the Panthers last week. You know what happened to this line? Last week, it was Carolina minus 3.5. I told you, jump on it. Because I knew they were going to beat the Saints. They beat the Saints. And then, of course, you throw in the Tyrod Taylor news. That bumps the line up as well. You get 4.5 points of value just by subscribing to the BLV Patreon. That's crazy, man. Crazy. So I will not be betting on this game at -8, as I already have bets on the game at -3.5. So take the Panthers. I like the Panthers to win, and I think they're still better than people think. So I got Carolina in the Thursday nighter. The next game, to Sunday now. The Arizona Cardinals at the Jacksonville Jags. Jacksonville has been horrendous. They have not changed my mind after another week of football. Urban Meyer needs to quickly head back to college because it's getting bad. It's getting quite embarrassing for Trevor Lawrence and for Urban Meyer. The Arizona Cardinals are a good football team, although I think they might be slightly overvalued at the moment because they probably should have lost to the Vikings. The Vikings missed a last-second 37-yard field goal. My friend Jack said even if that was Vinatieri, they would have missed. But regardless, the Vikings probably should have beat the Cardinals in that game. But luckily for the Cardinals, they are 2-0 in a very competitive division. They cannot afford to slack off. They cannot afford to lose that momentum, lose a game here to a far, far, far worse team and roster. Jacksonville's a mess. I can't trust them with anything. And there's no way, even at 7.5, I will take Jacksonville with the points because they are that bad. Trevor Lawrence has been one of the worst quarterbacks in football thus far, throwing one of the highest rates of turnover-worthy throws and plays. The Arizona Cardinals, on their side of things at quarterback, Kyler Murray has been an MVP candidate. Some people think he's been the MVP. Okay? Defensively, they've got a nasty pass rush. They're not great on the perimeter at cornerback, but I think their pass rush will get after Trevor Lawrence. They'll make some plays enough here. And I don't really see Jacksonville's defense, a very weak defense. You could argue it might be the worst in football. I don't see them defending and stopping or slowing down the Cardinals' electric attack. So I have the Arizona Cardinals here winning this game as well as covering, period. Next, the Atlanta Falcons at the New York G-Men. This game, I think, is actually low-key pretty interesting, fascinating. I think it could be pretty good, to be honest with you. Not in a way of seeing two juggernauts play, but like in a way of like, I think that these two teams overall match up pretty well together and against each other, and I think that could make for an interesting, intriguing matchup. That's kind of the way that I think of it. Not necessarily like the greatest game I've ever seen in terms of two juggernaut teams, but maybe a watchable, fun game in week number 3. So you have Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, last week, I saw a little bit of him in the first week versus the Eagles. Last week, it just pretty much confirmed that the guy doesn't really have the arm strength anymore. Like, he doesn't have the fastball anymore. And that's getting very concerning as a Calvin Ridley owner in fantasy. It's very, very concerning. But he did play well versus the Bucs despite not having the fastball. His pocket movement was still very good. His accuracy is still on point. The offensive line, I thought the offense as a whole versus Tampa Bay looked a lot more competent. They got Cordell Patterson involved in the game plan. I felt like overall, Ridley and Pitts were utilized better. So I expect Atlanta to not necessarily get shut down at all in this game. I think they should have some success on offense. Although the Giants' defense is fairly solid, it hasn't performed to expectation that we had coming into the year. So the Giants' defense, I think part of the problem is they don't really have great pass rushers. Their corners are good. I think Adoree Jackson's played well for them, for sure. And James Bradbury hasn't quite played to his standard. He kind of got bullied by Terry McLaurin last week. That could happen again versus Calvin Ridley. We'll see how that goes down. But that's a fascinating matchup for me. On the other side of things, the Giants, might be getting a fully 100% Saquon Barkley in this game after 10 days of rest, playing 84% of the snaps a week ago. It could be Saquon's time to break out. And this could really be, as a big Saquon fan and as fantasy owner of Saquon, I'm expecting him to be at his best, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think he could have a big game in this one. The offensive line of the Giants is certainly concerning, especially inside and with Nate Solder at right tackle. But we saw a little bit flashes here and there from Dante Fowler. We always get a good Grady Jarrett performance. So Atlanta could make life difficult at times on the Giants passing attack and Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones played very, very well versus Washington, a very good pass rush in their own right, and a better defense overall. But you have to wonder, was that just because it was in division? Did they know them well? So there's a lot of things to consider here. I wouldn't consider betting on this game because I think there's too many variables in it. I think Daniel Jones is a quarterback that just is so hard to bet on because you don't know which guy's going to show up from week to week. I think the Giants should be able to win this game. I think they're the better, more complete team. I think the coaching is fairly even overall from what I've seen this season, although Jason Garrett's been up and down. But if we get the same Giants team that we got a week ago that I thought should have beat the Washington football team, then I think the Giants should be able to win this game. But the thing is, I just don't know what Giants team we're going to get from week to week. So I'm going to take the Giants to win, but I don't really feel great about it just because I think they're such an inconsistent, unreliable football team. So I'll take the Giants to win in this game. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions, honestly, guys, I know they're 0-2, and I said they'd suck, and I said their record would be really bad, which it is. But, they've played better than their record. They were playing poorly in the first game. They had a fight. They came back. They made it interesting versus San Francisco. That's all you can ask from them in that game. In week 2, they actually were very competitive with Green Bay through 3 quarters of the game. And then once it started raining, Jared Goff fell apart as we thought he would, and the Packers ended up rolling in the fourth quarter. But for them to compete at that level with Green Bay means I don't think it's going to be an easy game for the Baltimore Ravens. What I also don't think makes it an easy game for the Baltimore Ravens is the fact that the Lions have a pretty decent defensive line. I think their defensive line has some size to it. I think they can defend the run decent enough. I don't think they're going to get run over the way that the Chiefs did. So I think life will be a little bit tougher, weirdly, on Lamar Jackson in this game than it was on Lamar Jackson versus the Chiefs. So I think the Lions can hang around in this game using their running backs. I think Anthony Lynn has impressed me with his play calling overall. And I think Jared Goff has been a little bit better than expected. DeAndre Swift is a certified baller, and TJ Hawkinson has really proven me wrong. I thought he was just a good player. No, he's in fact a very good player. So I think the Lions can hang around in this game. I really am not buying the Ravens, especially coming off of an emotional win, a high-flying win. I think this game could end up being a one-score game. I fully expect the Ravens to win this game, but you know what? I'm going to take the Detroit Lions here plus the points. I think 8 points for the Ravens is probably just too many for me versus a really tough, physical team in the Lions that has a ton of heart. So from what I've seen from the Lions, I'm going to take the 8 points here. I might be a clown for it, but it's a lot of points for a team in the Ravens that I'm not truly 100% buying. And I think the public might even push this number up. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win, but I will take Detroit to cover because I do see this game being closer than people expect. Next, we have the Chicago Bears at the Cleveland Brownies. Just going to move this over here. The Chicago Bears and the Browns. The Browns will be getting Odell Beckham Jr. back in the lineup. Jarvis Landry, though, has hit the IR, so he's done for the foreseeable future. It will be cool to see Odell back on the field. I think the Browns should pretty easily roll this game. Baker Mayfield has, for the most part, protected the football, and their offense has, for the most part, not really been slowed down at all through their first 2 games. Nick Chubb has been a certified beast monster, but I will say the Bears up front do match up fairly decent with the Browns, but the Browns have pretty much ran the ball on everybody. It's not really like the Browns are going to get stuffed by the Bears, but I will say that the Bears front 7 has the size and has the ability to stuff the run at moments in this game and to provide a tough test for the Cleveland offensive line that they have not seen versus the Chiefs or versus the Texans. So this will be by far the toughest front 7 the Browns have faced this season. So that is interesting. But I think Odell being back definitely helps. Jalen Johnson, the cornerback of the Bears, has been one of the highest graded corners in the NFL per Pro Football Focus. I think he was first last week for sure after his big performance versus the Bengals. But I'm not a huge fan of the secondary there. So I do think Baker, as long as he has the time, which I expect him to have time, he'll pick apart this secondary when given that time. So it might be more so a Baker game than it is a Chubb game or a Hunt game in this one. Defensively, the Browns still have a lot to figure out, but luckily for them, they're not going to be playing a surgical passer. They've really struggled versus Tyrod Taylor and versus Patrick Mahomes in the last 2 games, as they only allowed 1 incompletion. They only gave up 11 of 12, right? That's too much for me. That's ridiculous. That's not good enough if you're the Browns defense with all this talent. Tyrod Taylor's ripping them and shredding them apart. So it will be an opportunity here for Justin Fields in his first game, his debut, to make an impact. And I'm just not sure Justin Fields is that type of surgical player to be able to do that on a consistent basis. He might make plays with his legs. The Browns have been known to let runners run versus them often, as we've seen with Lamar Jackson. But they do have great athletes on the edges with Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett to be able to track him down in space. potentially. So that's interesting to me. I'm looking forward to seeing what Justin Fields can show as Andy Dalton is out for a while. I think he'll have some flash plays, some splash plays, but he'll also have his fair share of mistakes. I think that allows the Browns to cover this spread and allows the Browns to win this game comfortably. I think Cleveland needs a really standout performance here, and I think they get it. I think the Browns win 30-20 over the Chicago Bears and cover the spread of 7. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bengals are actually opened up as 4.5-point underdogs. Now it's 3.5 in most places I've seen. I took the game at 4.5. Hopefully you did as well. Another reason to head over to Patreon. Link is in the description, and get that $5 tier for my bets, because if you get it early, if you get these picks early, man, you're certified and guaranteed to make some money. Trust me on that. But the Bengals and the Steelers, all right? The Steelers minus 3.5. The Steelers offense is dreadful. It's very bad. It doesn't have an identity. It really is struggling constantly to make plays in the run game, to make plays in the passing game. The offensive line is really bad. They cannot protect, and it's going to be hard for them to protect, I think, again, versus the Bengals. The Bengals have a very underrated defensive line. They're good at stuffing the run. They didn't really allow David Montgomery to go off last week. They're pretty good off the edges with Trey Hendrickson getting after the passer. There will be moments where Ben looks like an old man, as he did in the first 2 weeks versus the Raiders, who play a very similar type of defense to the Bengals, and also versus the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers have struggled to move the ball in their first 2 games. And really, they're just chucking praise up to Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. If Deontay Johnson's not in this game, that's a huge loss for them, as that's the only consistent chain mover for the Steelers offense, so I'd be concerned about that. On the defensive side of things, the Steelers are a bit banged up. We'll have to see who plays and who doesn't. TJ Watt, Joe Hayden's been in and out of the lineup. Offensively for the Bengals, they were a disaster last week. Joe Burrow is bad. He threw 3 straight passes that were intercepted versus the Chicago Bears. Chances are he doesn't do that again. They probably do end up handing it off more to Joe Mixon, which I think would be a mistake, as the place to take advantage of the Steelers would be through the air against their cornerbacks, as the Raiders did. I think the Bengals have the better offense. I think the Bengals have the better quarterback. The Bengals beat the Steelers late last year on Monday Night Football, and I will be taking the upset here, the Cincinnati Bengals, plus the 3.5, and to win this game. I do not like the Steelers at all. I think they're in a bad place, and I cannot trust an offense that will score 17 points each and every week. I will take the Bengals to win this game outright. I know it's the Steelers. I know it's at Heinz Field. I know it's 2 weeks in a row that they could potentially lose at their home stadium. But I have bad vibes coming out of Pittsburgh. And Cincinnati is bad too. So I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh won. But I just am not with the Steelers right now. I just don't like what they're looking like. And even in the game that they won, they were lucky to win. So I'll take the Bengals to win this game, a close one. They've played the Steelers very well recently, so I'm going to bank on that and take the points for sure, but also take the Bengals here to win outright. You guys complained that I didn't take enough upsets last week, so that's what I'm going to do this week. I'll take Cincinnati. Next, the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Guys, if you're just joining, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. The Bengals over the Steelers, guys. Steeler Nation's not happy. The Colts and the Titans. The Titans should win this game. I mean, there's no reason they should not win this game. The Colts are bad, and the Colts don't have their quarterback. Okay? The Colts don't have Carson Wentz. Jacob Eason is not good at football. I know Carson Wentz isn't either, But I mean, at least he's an NFL starting quarterback. I'm not sure Jacob Eason is that. The Titans probably won a game that they shouldn't have won last week, but nonetheless, they won it. And they won it in OT in a hostile environment, so it was a nice bounce back spot for them over the Seattle Seahawks. Their offense, I think, will continue to gain steam and get a little bit better, as it was very bad in week 1, and it looked better in week 2. A.J. Brown's still not playing his best. He needs to catch the ball when it's thrown to him. Julio looks decent. I wouldn't say he looks like old Julio, but he still looks like a capable number 2 wide receiver at the very least. But the Titans, I expect to score. I mean, especially when it comes to throwing the ball through the air. I wouldn't be that surprised if this does become some sort of slugfest where the Titans are just kind of okay with handing the ball off to Derrick Henry and eating up the time of possession and, really grinding out this victory over a Jacob Eason-led Colts offense that I don't think is very good. But then again, the Titans defense is pretty bad. It constantly lets up like random blown coverage plays down the field for 50, 60 yards. And the Colts offense, though, it looked good last week. Play calling is there. They were able to run the ball on the Rams, but they couldn't execute on 4th down. They couldn't execute in the red zone. The Colts do need to win a game at some point, but I don't think this is the game for that to happen. Just because this is a divisional game, this is a game where the Titans have to win this to get a lead in the division, and it's with their backup quarterback. So I just don't have enough confidence in Eason here to pull this off. I'm going to take the Titans. I still don't think the Titans are a very good team, to be honest with you. I just think their defense is too much of a liability, and I think their offense is too hit and miss for me. And it's too reliant on just 2 or 3 players, not enough scheme-wise that I see that I like. So I just think those players are enough to win this game. I think the Colts are a really bad team. As I said before the year, I thought they were overrated, and I still think they're somewhat overrated. I'll take the Titans here to win the game. As for the points, I think it's fairly close, but I think I'll take the Titans to cover. I'm not super confident about that one, but I think they could win by 6 to 7 points here, so I'll take it. 5.5 is kind of a tricky, weird number. Like, they're not quite confident enough to give it 6, which is weird. So I'll take 6. I'll take the Titans to win by 6 or 7, maybe even 10 in this game. So the AFC South is a disaster. There's no way around it. There's no doubt about it. But I'll take the Titans to win the game. I don't think either of these teams are that good, to be honest. I don't think the Titans are great, even if they win this game. I don't think the Colts are very good. Honestly, if the Colts win, that just means the Titans are not going to be very relevant this year, because this is a game the Titans have to win. Like, they have to. Next, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are -7. The Chiefs are in Arrowhead. The Chiefs coming off a loss to the Baltimore Ravens and the one-man team Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs are obviously going to be a little bit PO'd, and the Chargers, I feel, are as well, because I think they let a game slip to the Dallas Cowboys that they probably should have won if not for a couple of phantom calls by the referees, and just overall shooting themselves in the foot with 11 penalties, not executing in the red zone. I think this game will be very, very good. Honestly, I am confused as to why the Chiefs are favored by a full 7 points here. The Chiefs are not 7 points better than the Chargers. The Chargers, I think, are a playoff team in the AFC, or at least close. They have a very good quarterback. They've got dynamic playmakers with Austin Eckler in the backfield. Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Mike Williams having a great first 2 weeks of the season. Really awesome. Developing into a new role. The offensive line's pretty decent, although we'll see if Brian Bulaga can suit up, because that will be a big game changer for them. A big reason they weren't able to beat the Cowboys is because Micah Parsons was just absolutely dummying the Chargers right tackle. So if that right tackle, Brian Bulaga, can step in there for that backup, that's a huge upgrade for them. Defensively, the Chargers have been good across the board pretty much in the first 2 games. Their secondary is ballin'. I think they've played pretty well. Joey Bosa hasn't quite been himself through the first 2 weeks, in my opinion, especially last week where he really didn't create a lot of pressure after Dak Prescott. But their linebackers are performing. Staley has it going. You would expect the Chiefs here to win this game. You would expect the Chiefs to bounce back here. It's tough to see the Chiefs going 2 straight games, losing both of them. But this is not going to be an easy game. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Mahomes and Reed attack Brandon Staley's defense and how Brandon Staley attacks the Chiefs' offense, as he was hired and brought in to specifically beat the Chiefs and defend the Chiefs' offense with what he does defensively. With the Chargers, what they do defensively from a scheme perspective and what Staley does from a scheme perspective is honestly how you have to play the Chiefs to beat the Chiefs. You have to allow them to run the ball. You have to play less players in the box. You have to defend the deep pass. And all of those things are inherent inside the Chargers' defensive scheme. So all of those things will be helpful already without having to change their ways, right? The Ravens had to completely change their identity defensively to have a hope of defending the Chiefs. The Chargers don't have to do that, which I find very fascinating. The other hybrid difference maker in this game is Derwin James. Derwin James could be the X factor to the Chargers' success in this game. If Derwin James can just line up and have success defending Travis Kelce, that completely opens up the Chargers' window of winning this football game. Because if Travis Kelce can be defended one-on-one in this game, it completely allows the Chargers to put more resources towards defending Tyreek Hill and the rest of the offense. So I'm very much looking forward to the Derwin James, Travis Kelce matchup. On the flip side, the Chiefs' defense is horrendous. I don't really know if maybe they'll have a chip on their shoulder. Maybe they'll play a little bit better. But I'm really intrigued to see how the Chiefs get better on defense. Are they going to become more aggressive? Are they going to become more sound? Are they going to put Chris Jones back in the inside of their D-line instead of the outside of their D-line? Because they haven't really been able to cover. They haven't really been able to defend the run either. I think the keys to this game are defending Kelce and time of possession for the Chargers. And if the Chargers can freaking move the ball and actually put it in the end zone, they have a very good chance of winning this game. I'm actually going to go with the Chargers here. I think the Chargers, I might be an idiot, I might be stupid. I'm going to give you another upset. You guys have been complaining about the upsets. I'm giving you another upset here. Until I see the Chiefs defense play better, I'm picking the Chargers. I think the Chargers should be 2-0. I think their defense is built to stop the Chiefs, and they have stopped the Chiefs over the past couple of years. Justin Herbert is just as capable as Mahomes of making big-time throws down the field, and he can match Mahomes on that side of the field. I need to see the Chiefs' defense play better. I'm going to take the Chargers. I love the Chargers plus the 7. I think that's a great bet, but I'm going to take the Chargers to flat out win the damn game because I think they're a good team all around, and I don't see why they can't win this game. So I'm going to continue to ride with the team getting points versus the Chiefs. I'm not certain the Chargers will win, but why not? Let's go with it. Let's ride with the underdog. Let's take Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley to beat the Chiefs. Why not? Next. The New Orleans Saints at the New England Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 3 points in this contest in New England at Gillette Stadium. During halftime, they will be giving a celebration to the career of the playoff legend Julian Edelman. Edelman will be probably giving some speech or something, so that automatically means the Patriots will be juiced for this game, and Turtle will be very, very upset watching his boy Edelman give a speech. Julian Edelman will inspire the Patriots to win this game. I got the Patriots winning this game, but more so than that, that's just for fun. I think the Patriots are the better team. The real key for New England in this game is slowing down Alvin Kamara and, on the flip side, putting the ball in the end zone. right? New England offensively has been able to move the ball through the 20s consistently versus both Miami and the New York Jets. I would say the Jets are more similar to the Saints in terms of the way their personnel is in this game. I'm also not certain about the Saints' health, both in their coaching staff, which I expect more of their coaches to be back after that past week, but their defense has been a little bit beat up, especially Marshawn Lattimore, who even Drew Brees himself has stated that he is a major difference maker, whether he's in the lineup or out of the lineup. It really dictates how that defense plays. Not that it would really dictate how they defend the Patriots as much. Maybe it helps them defend Nelson Aguilar, but it's not like they're really playing the Bucs or anything like that. You know, they're not really playing like great receivers. It's more so New England's ability to run the ball, as well as their short passing game through their scheme, and as well as their tight ends. And you know, their tight ends need a coming out party. I think they will. I think this is my bold prediction for the game. The New England Patriots, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith both score a touchdown in this game, and the Patriots win 24-17 over the New Orleans Saints. I think the game will be relatively low scoring, as I think both teams will somewhat have a tough time. But New England always plays a good game when it comes to playing a defense-first game, managing the clock, managing the football, and playing great special teams, field position. And Belichick is used to winning those games, especially in New England. I think that gives them an edge. The other difference in this game, I think, is Mac Jones' ability to protect the ball versus Jameis Winston. Whenever Jameis Winston is trailing, he starts becoming the old Jameis Winston. And if New England, which I think they'll effectively take away Alvin Kamara, both through the air, which is just as important as taking away on the ground, I think that will force Jameis Winston into making mistakes in this game, which will give Mac Jones and their offense a couple short fields. So I'm going to say the Patriots win this game in a tight defensive battle and come out with the win. It won't be pretty, but I think they'll come out with the win. That's all that matters early this year with their young quarterback continuing to grow this offense. And I think we're going to continue to see this offense grow. This defense played great last week. I don't expect it to slow down. I think it's going to continue to play well. When you look at the Saints, again, final point on this game, I just don't know how they're going to effectively pass the ball enough to win this game. And in 2021 in the NFL, you need to be able to pass the ball. And with Jameis Winston's sporadic accuracy and not a lot of great weapons on the perimeter for the Saints or at tight end, I just don't know how they're going to threaten the Patriots in this game through the air. Like, the Patriots will be able to load up the box to take away the run and probably even double Alvin Kamara in passing downs, and I don't really know how they're going to effectively throw the ball. So that difference in the game means I think New England should be able to win it. So I'm going to go with the Patriots here. I'll also take them to cover. It's only 3 points, but I wouldn't recommend betting on this week. Next, the Washington football team at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is favored by 7.5 in this football game. I think Buffalo should be able to win this game. I'm just concerned about the point spread. Now, it opened at 9.5, so it's already been bet down to 7.5, and I actually took it from 9.5 to 10, so I took a little bit less in terms of the odds for the extra half a point to make it a flat 10. That's also what you can get on the BLV Patreon. Link is in the description, guys. I keep giving you this free money. I'm just telling you right now. But anyways, link is in the description for the Patreon. $5 package gets you my bets and gets you my early bets as well as my forward-thinking next week down the road bets as well. So make sure you check out the Patreon. But this is a game and an example of that. So Washington was underdogs of 9.5 in Buffalo. Buffalo should win the game. They have the better quarterback by a freaking mile, although Josh Allen hasn't really played well in the first couple of weeks, and their offense has struggled to move the ball versus two good defenses in Miami and as well versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't get that score twisted. 35-0 was not 35-0. It didn't feel that way, at least from my perspective. The offense, Josh Allen, a little bit sporadic for my liking. And the offense is still a little bit too one-dimensional, especially going against a Washington team who doesn't really give up much on the ground. They're very good up front. When you think about, Washington, who do they compare to between Miami and the Steelers? They compare it to the Steelers in terms of their four-man rush and how they can get after the quarterback and a guy like Josh Allen. I do think a matchup that the Bills can exploit is probably Cole Beasley in the slot, as Sterling Shepard had a big game versus Washington on Thursday Night Football out of the slot. I think that defense in Buffalo is going to be the difference. I think playing at home and having a pretty reliable defense that won't really be ran on very well. I think Gibson, is not going to go off and help a young quarterback in Heineke really make a lot of plays. Terry McLaurin will probably be seeing a lot of Tre'Davious White in this game, which isn't exactly, a great matchup for him. And they do struggle to move the ball in other ways. If they're not running it, if they're not throwing it to Terry McLaurin, they don't have a heck of a lot of success doing anything else. It's a pretty even game up front, but I just think the quarterback and the coaching of the Bills is probably, and the home field on top of that, is probably enough for them to get the win here, with a couple big plays from Josh Allen being the difference maker. But I'm not exactly super high on the Bills at the moment. I don't think they're a runaway winner of this division. I think you'd probably consider them the favorite, but I don't think the Patriots are far behind. And I don't see them truly as a contender for the Super Bowl at the moment. I see them as a playoff team, but not truly a contender for the Super Bowl. So that's where I'm at on them. As for Washington, I think they're pretty clearly an average team with or without Fitzpatrick, and their defense has underperformed. Can they have a big performance here? I like Washington more as an underdog than I do as a favorite. That helps me take the 7.5 points here, but I will take the Bills to win the game. Next, the Miami Dolphins at the Las Vegas Raiders. No Tua, unfortunately, for the Dolphins, as he has some pretty banged up ribs that are not exactly feeling pretty good. So I don't know how long Tua's going to be out. Jacoby Brissett's going to take his place. Maybe the Dolphins might have to make a call to good old Cam Newton, and I know Kevin Durant would love that one. But I think the Miami Dolphins will still be somewhat competitive in this game. They're a well-coached football team. I think they can game plan him around Jacoby Brissett. He's talented enough to make some throws and plays, versus a Raiders defense that it still needs to prove to me the play in the secondary is quite average. Casey Hayward's been amazing, but besides that, I still have my questions about the pass defense. The pass rush is really where the Raiders could win this game. If their pass rush continues to perform the way it has through the first two games with Max Crosby, and on the opposite side, Yannick Ngakoue, that's where you can really give some issues to Jacoby Brissett, who holds onto the ball longer than Tua and can expose one of the worst offensive lines in football in the Miami Dolphins, at least thus far, one of the worst in football this season. So that could be a real issue. Myles Gaskin, the running game of Miami, has been okay, but not exactly fantastic. The defensive side of the football, Miami is very talented in the secondary. They consistently make plays on the football. They consistently make rare plays on the football. But the Raiders are pretty balanced. Darren Waller, I'm going to be intrigued to see how the Dolphins match up with him and try to take him out of the game. But I've just been so impressed with Derek Carr. I've been so impressed with John Gruden and the way that they've been scheming up this offense and the way they've been able to move the ball with little resistance from the Pittsburgh Steelers, even in Heinz Field and on the Baltimore Ravens in Don Martindale. They've seen defenses that love to blitz a lot. They've been able to expose them. They've been able to move the ball through the air consistently, and Derek Carr is straight up ballin'. So I'd be a fool to not take the rolling Raiders in this game and Derek Carr the way that he is playing. So I have to take the Raiders to win. The 4 is a little interesting. I could really see that biting me and on a potential backdoor, but man, that's tough. I'll take the Raiders minus the 4, but I don't really love it that much. I might have to be talked into really betting on the game. I don't necessarily think it's a stay away game if you really like it on either side, but yeah, that's a tough one for me. I think the Raiders will win, will cover. I don't have enough confidence in the Dolphins' offensive line and quarterback to be able to beat the Raiders. in Las Vegas. And this pass rush that's really playing well. I think the Raiders are still kind of being a little bit undervalued. So I'll take the Raiders to win this game and to cover. Next, let's get some water here. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are enjoying. The New York Jets at the Denver Broncos. The Jets plus 10.5. I don't know why I listed them as plus 10.5 and not Denver minus 10.5. But regardless, you get it. So the Denver Broncos, they've been really, really good. The problem is they've played two of the worst teams in the NFL. They played the New York Giants. They played the Jacksonville Jags. And in both games, they covered. In both games, Teddy Bridgewater was effective and borderline electric. He's actually moving the ball and throwing it down the field and creating big plays with his arm. It's been nice to see Teddy Bridgewater not be so conservative. On the other side, the Broncos have a very good defense. They put Bradley Chubb on the IR. He didn't play last week. I don't think he's played all year, really. Maybe a little bit, but I don't think he's really played much. But their defense is very good. They really don't allow you to run the ball very well. They really don't allow you to pass the ball very well. The problem for me in this game is not necessarily that the Jets don't have the talent to keep this one competitive. It's the coaching on the offensive side of the ball for the Jets. I haven't been impressed with LaFleur, not Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur. From the Jets' perspective, Belichick really keyed on really everything that they did, and it was an embarrassing performance for Zach Wilson. It won't get much better when you play the Broncos. I mean, you've got Vic Fangio, you've got a great defense with a very good secondary and a good front, and it's going to be tough for the Jets to move the ball at all in this game in any way that they choose. Defensively, I think the Jets can be competitive. They've got a strong D-line, but the offensive line of the Broncos has perhaps been the most underrated aspect of their team and the most underrated offensive line in the NFL thus far, with what Mike Munchak has been able to do building these boys up front, whether it's been running the ball with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon or pass protecting for Teddy Bridgewater. They've been extremely effective this year, and they have enough playmakers to make plays versus a weak secondary. So I like the Broncos. They've been using a lot of play action. I think everything about the Broncos I've been liking. I've been liking the play calling. I like the quarterback play. I like the defense. I like the O-line. There's really no way to not be enjoying what the Broncos are giving you. Like, there's no way to not be impressed by what they're giving you based on all of the metrics, the analytics, and things that show how to win football games in the NFL. The Broncos are at the top of every list. Now, that might be due to the competition, but the competition is not getting any tougher this week. So I have the Broncos winning, and they should cover. It's a big number to lay with a team led by Teddy Bridgewater, but if you look at the game last week, New England should have been favored by this number, and New England covered. So I think there's not really a lot different here, especially considering the Jets will be on the road for this game in Mile High. I like the Broncos to win. If Zach Wilson chooses to play a boring style of football, this game they could cover, and I wouldn't be shocked. But I just don't know if I have the faith in the Jets to take the points here. Although it wouldn't be dumb. It's kind of the square play to pick the Broncos to cover. But I'm going to be a square here just because I have no faith that the Jets will be able to do so. So I'm going to take the Broncos to win for sure. It's a lock. But in terms of the spread, it's a little iffy. But I'll still take the Broncos because I think they're very similar to the Patriots in the ways that they match up and the ways that they give issues to the Jets. And I think that's going to be the same case for this game. So I'll take Denver to win and to cover. Next, the Seattle Seahawks at the Minnesota Vikings. The Seahawks had a very, very disastrous second half. I think it was the first game in their history with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. I think there was something like 43-0 or something, like up double digits at half or something to that nature in Seattle. And they let that one slip. They let that one go. They blew it. They're playing a Minnesota Vikings team that should have beat the Cardinals last week. I think this game's actually going to be very close. The spread, I think, is very accurate in this game. I look at it and I see a Vikings D-line that can definitely get after Russell Wilson. The thing with Wilson is, if he doesn't have that deep ball open to him, he will get sacked. Like, he will take sacks, and I think the Vikings will be able to get to him in this game. The problem is the Vikings allow way too many deep passes. Their secondary is kind of slow, and they give up too many just gashes down the field. That happened versus Kyler Murray. It might help the Vikings that they played Kyler Murray and now play Russell Wilson because they're so similar, but it might just be the case that they're not very good at defending either one. On the flip side, Seattle, this is the problem with the Vikings. If the Vikings come out there and they spread the ball out and they attack the weak secondary of Seattle, they will have success. If they say this is Kirk Cousins' game, he's going to be the guy that drives us, they can have success in this game to win this game. But the problem is that the Vikings love to run the ball. And the Seahawks, being an old school coaching staff, they love to load the box and they love to take away the run. And as effective as Derrick Henry was, it's just not efficient football consistently running into 8-man boxes. And eventually you're going to be stuffed and you're going to be forced to punt. So that's a problem I see with the Vikings attacking the Seahawks, is they kind of get in their own way by constantly running into a lot of loaded boxes. You should be attacking Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on the perimeter versus weak corners instead of just running Dalvin Cook down the throat of Bobby Wagner. So that's just my opinion. But the game should be pretty close because I don't think Seattle really blows anybody out. And there is a case to be had for the Vikings as still a pretty talented roster. They just can't seem to win these close games, and they can't seem to beat the Seahawks in these close games. So at the end of the day, I'll take Seattle to win the game. I'll take Seattle to cover. But I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if it was like a final play of the game, field goal to win it, a touchdown to win it, last drive of the game. That's the way I see it going down. I see it being tight throughout. But I do think Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett, who's on a heater, expect DK Metcalf to get back on track in this game. I think the Seahawks win, bounce back here, get a bounce back game and a bounce back win. But man, it should be a pretty close, entertaining game. The Vikings desperately need this one too. All right. It's also 1.5. Okay, interesting. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Los Angeles Rams. Tampa Bay was initially underdogs of 1.5 points. This has gone all the way from 1.5 for the Rams to 1.5 for the Bucs. Now, the recent news is that Antonio Brown came down with the good old COVID, so he is on the COVID list. Now, the thing is, Antonio Brown already had his vaccination, which means that Antonio Brown needs 2 negative tests before Sunday to be able to suit up for the game. Luckily, whether he plays or not, the Buccaneers are in a good position to take his spot because they have Tyler Johnson, who is one of the best, depth receivers in football, and also Scotty Miller, who's a damn good deep threat. So they've got plenty of options as well as multi-tight end sets, which is a good segue because I think that's the way you attack the Rams. I think the way to attack the Rams is by trying to get them to play in personnel that puts more of their linebackers on the field and less of their defensive backs. I think this game will be won and lost by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' ability to win the line of scrimmage on offense. If the Bucs are able to protect Tom Brady, which I think they will be able to, right? A big difference from last year's game and this year's game is Ali Marpet is in the lineup. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been graded the #1 pass blocking unit in the NFL thus far, and That's surprised by nobody really, but they're a very good offensive line. Along with Tom Brady getting rid of the ball quickly, processing information quickly, it allows him to not take hits and sacks, and it also keeps the Bucs on schedule. The second thing is, if the Buccaneers stay in that personnel package, it puts the weaker personnel of the Rams on the field and or forces the Rams to play with less big bodies on the field, which allows the Bucs to run the ball down their throat. And when you allow that opportunity for the Bucs to run the ball down your throat, they will, right? We saw that in the playoffs versus the Saints. We saw that versus a Saints team that was good versus the run. The Rams aren't. And the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, where the Chiefs eventually said, okay, we can't really defend both, so let's just force them to run. And eventually Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones were breaking off big gainers. So the offensive line of the Bucs will probably be the difference in this game if the Buccaneers win the game. Tom Brady is playing better than any quarterback in football. He is absolutely insane. The guy is 117 years old, but he's still the best in football. And I don't really see him slowing down. I think this is a big game for Cam Brate, O.J. Howard, and Rob Gronkowski, as I brought up with that multi-tight end set, especially if Antonio Brown is not in the game. Defensively, on the other side of things, I think Tampa Bay and LA, that's a fascinating matchup. I look for the Rams to really throw out a similar game plan as the Cowboys. They don't quite have the receiving talent that the Cowboys have, and the quarterbacks are fairly similar. I think Dak and Stafford are kind of like on the same level. But the offensive line is worse for the Rams. So it will be very fascinating to see how the Rams decide to use their pass run splits, because we've seen in past years the Rams are not a very good team when they can't run the ball offensively. But at the same time, last year we saw them have a lot of success, abandon the run and just pass the ball short, get the ball out of quick of Jared Goff's hands, and make plays in the screen game. But the Bucs being able to see that both last year and in week 1 might be a big difference, right? And the Bucs just seem to be an opportunistic defense where if they get a lead on you, they're going to make a couple plays with their pass rush. They're going to force a turnover. They're going to blitz you to death. And eventually that's going to lead to a mistake. Matthew Stafford's not going to run around and beat you that way. So it's real interesting. I expect Carlton Davis to line up on Robert Woods a lot of the time, so that probably means Cooper Kupp will have an advantage in the nickel position. Will the Bucs decide to play a lot of man-to-man to try to take away the short passing game and the screens, or will they try to play some zone and really clog up the middle of the field? And I think for the Bucs, they really need to tackle well. They need to pursue well. Devin White, Levante David, Whitehead, these guys, Mike Edwards, who might be playing in the nickel position without Sean Murphy-Bunting, who had 2 pick sixes versus Atlanta, needs to play well. I think I have more faith in the Bucs defense to stop the Rams. In a big game, we've just consistently seen the Bucs defense play just well and make enough plays to win. And I think that will be the case in this game. They have too much talent. I think there's a certain narrative following the Bucs defense right now that they're not very good. And I think that does motivate them in a big matchup versus a Rams offense that's been kind of heating lately. That might allow the Bucs to have their best performance yet on defense, even though it doesn't really look like that on paper. There's always that X factor to things when you have Shaq Barrett and Vita Vea and Levante David and Devin White. They're underperforming for the amount of talent that they have on defense, so that it might be time for them to outperform that. I could see this game going down to the wire. I could see this game being a last minute type of thing, but based on the teams in the first 2 weeks and based on the matchups, I think the Bucs are the better team. I don't really think the Rams can win this game, don't get me wrong, but if you were to compare both rosters, it's clearly obvious who the best team is in this game. And I think it's kind of like, not embarrassing, what's the word, but it's not respectful to the Bucs that they're only 1.5 point favorites in this game, even though they're on the road. They're the superior team. They have more chemistry. And they're used to winning big games. And this is a big game. This could be potentially for the first seed in the NFC. I think the Bucs are better. Tom Brady is better than Stafford. I think they'll run the ball better than the Rams. They've got more ways to beat you through the air. And their defense is more opportunistic. I think the biggest, most overrated thing in this game is the Rams' defense. It's yet to be exposed. They've played Carson Wentz, and they've played Andy Dalton, right? Tampa Bay played Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott. That makes a big difference. So I think Tampa Bay is better. I think Tampa Bay all around is the best team in football, and they will show that in this game. I have Tampa Bay winning and covering in LA 31-24. That'll be my score. Next, the Green Bay Packers at the San Francisco 49ers. This is Sunday night football, isn't it? Or is it Dallas Philly, or is that Monday night? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I think it's Sunday night football. Green Bay, San Francisco. This game is really tough for me because on one side of things, I see the previous like ideas and concepts of San Francisco has owned the Packers, like Kyle Shanahan has owned this defense. And really, when you look at it, there's no reason to expect the Niners to not own this defense. Like, the Niners have ran all over the Packers in recent years. And the Detroit Lions ran all over the Packers. Like, they couldn't stop the run in that game. Swift was running, Jamal Williams was running, until that game, again, I'll say it again, until that game became a rainy fest. Like, they were in the game, and Jared Goff was slicing them up. And Jimmy Garoppolo can certainly execute the way that Jared Goff did. If the Packers, the key for them is, can they slow down that rushing attack of the Niners? If they can do a good enough job, that will open up the opportunity for Aaron Rodgers to win this game, because the 49ers have yet to play a team that can expose their secondary. The 49ers secondary is not very good. Their corner play is extremely suspect, and on the outside, Devontae Adams should have his way. The problem is, will the 49ers make enough plays with their pass rush versus the Packers' offensive line without David Bakhtiari? Right? So it's a real tug of war for me. The other thing that bugs me is how much in his head Aaron Rodgers is. Like, the whole Aaron Rodgers drama thing is like killing me. And that might be a factor for like why you pick the 49ers, to be honest with you. I just sort of have a feeling the Packers are going to win. I don't really know why. I just sort of have this back of my mind feeling that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers will pull this off. I would think that the matchups favor the 49ers to win, but I just haven't felt overly comfortable with the San Francisco 49ers through 2 weeks. Like, I just haven't, especially with the offense, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. When it comes time for him to pass the ball in a key situation, will he be able to deliver? I just don't know, but I know Aaron Rodgers will. So I'm going to take the Packers to win the upset, and I'll take them to cover as well. I'll take the points in this game. I definitely take the points. I think it's an either way type of game, and getting the better quarterback with points when it's this close is certainly a good call. I'm going to take the Packers. I just have a feeling about this game that the Packers will win. And I do somewhat think it will be high scoring. I think it's going to be like 30-27, and I just think the Packers are going to be able to make one more stop in this game. So I'll take Green Bay to win on Sunday Night Football. Final game is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is favored by 4 in this matchup, and rightfully so. Philadelphia, I'm really intrigued to see how they overcome the loss of Brandon Graham on the edge. Josh Sweat has played very well. They still have Derek Barnett and Ryan Kerrigan there, so they do have depth. But Brandon Graham is one of the best edge players in the NFL, and that certainly is a loss. Now, Javon Hargrave has been a freaking human wrecking ball through the first 2 games and will definitely provide issues for the Cowboys. But the Cowboys' offensive line has been very, very good through the first 2 games versus both the Bucs and the Chargers. To me, I like the Cowboys. I think the reason the Cowboys win this game is simply they are better at passing the ball. They have the better quarterback. They have the better weapons. They have the better ability to pass the ball. Obviously, if Amari Cooper doesn't suit up and Gallup doesn't suit up, that might be a slightly game changer. That might be a game changer. But I expect Cooper to play. So I expect to have Cooper and CD out there. I expect to have the tight ends out there. Tony Pollard's looked fantastic. Zeke will be out there. I think Dak and just the proficiency and the efficiency of Kellen Moore's offense and the way he's calling plays and the balance of this offense, it's just very hard for any defense right now to stop. I like the Cowboys because of that. I also like the Cowboys because Jalen Hurts is not lighting it. He's not lighting up a secondary. The Cowboys have faced Tom Brady and Justin Herbert in the first 2 games. And yes, they can run the ball, but the Cowboys, their front 7 is underrated. I think Micah Parsons off the edge. Their linebacker plays pretty good. They've got plenty of D linemen. They're going to stuff the Bucs. Dan Quinn's not going to get run on. Just that his scheme alone doesn't really allow it to get run on that way. Trevon Diggs has already proven that he can cover well. He'll likely take Devontae Smith. I don't think the Eagles can consistently pass the ball in this game to win. So with that, I think the Cowboys win, and I'll say the Cowboys win a shockingly lower scoring game than people would expect. I'm going to say the Cowboys win 24-17 over the Philadelphia Eagles. So I will take the Cowboys in a big Monday Night Football spot. The defense of the Cowboys continues to play well and is the reason they win, along with the wide receivers and Dak Prescott. Those are my picks for Week 3 of the 2021 NFL season. If you enjoyed, make sure you do Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more bottom line view just like this, guys. I do need to let you know to follow us on Instagram at TheBottomLineView. I've been posting clips. I've been posting graphics, power rankings, a lot of stuff. Stardom, Situm for fantasy. That's on the Instagram. So follow us at TheBottomLineView. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani. And if you want to support me as a creator, if you want to support the channel, and if you want to get some gambling tips on the NFL, check out the Patreon to become a BLV patron. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. I'll take any questions you guys have right now. If you have any pressing questions for me, let me know. Qui-Gon says, is Kupp going to still be productive, or will the Bucs shut him down? No, I still think he'll have a good game. Dylan says, if I'm late, I'll pick the Giants 28-20. Broncos 45-14. Minnesota field goal, that like button says ramifications. Sports fan says, Mitch, stream the Eagles and Cowboys. Maybe I will. Who's the best team in the AFC? The Raiders. No, I have no idea. Dylan said, what else we got? Barkley about to go off. I hope so, bro. Brian Burns or Shaq Barrett right now. Through 2 weeks, I'll take Brian Burns. Sterling says, your thoughts about the Patriots run. Patriots run, like Their dynasty? Or what do you mean by that? Sports fans not satisfied with me. So, when I pick underdogs, people don't like it, apparently. GSP says, why is everyone still hating on the Dallas defense? They have 6 turnovers and held the Chargers to 17 points. I don't think they missed the playoffs. Sterling says, like changes to get to the Super Bowl this year. Changes to get to the Super Bowl. Hey, why not trade for Jamie Collins? Let's get it done. No, but I think the Patriots, they just need to get better. You know, Mac Jones will continue to get better week after week. I think they need to get better in the red zone. Stephon Gilmore on defense will certainly help. I'd like to see them continue to be, you know, more aggressive on defense. You know, blitzing a little bit more than they have. I think would be nice. Offensively, though, I don't have that many complaints. You know, continue to use play action the way they have, run the ball. I mean, I don't have too many complaints. I haven't, I think they should be 2-0 right now, bro. So I don't have too many complaints. What's their chances? I think they're better than people think. I think the AFC is kind of wide open, bro. I really do. If they can hit their stride at the end of the year defensively and their offense is playing well enough, I think they got a chance as long as they make it. Mr. Hot Take says, hey, legend, what's going on, Mr. Hot Take? Cordeezy says, got to take some underdogs. Nick, what's going on, bro? Your upset of the week is the Bears to beat the Browns. Wow. Okay. You going 3-0 with your upset of the week? Yeah, I know you joined the Discord. Durkant says he's disappointed in Matt Canada. Yeah, I know. I don't even know what type of passing plays they're running, bro. Chuck and pray. Read your latest comment. Yeah, I read it. Nada says 8 is a big number to give in a prime time at home. Which game are you referring to? Are you referring to Thursday night? Yeah, I mean it is. But it's Davis Mills, though. I don't know if I can count on Davis Mills, bro. And that's why you bet it at 3.5 last week when I recommended it on my Patreon. Jacob says Rams beat the Bucks. That's a hot take in the chat. We're getting a lot of Rams are going to beat the Bucks. A lot of people are Rams guys. Athix says starting Panthers defense tomorrow. Should I be worried? No. You should be excited. Da Raiders, says sports fan. Oh, he's very happy about the Raiders. He's actually currently editing a video that will come out Friday for me. So definitely look out for that one. I think it's going to be pretty good. He's shown me a little bit of it already. Can Washington beat Buffalo? They can. I don't expect them to. I think it should be a pretty close game, though. Mike says KC's going to lose against the Chargers. Ooh. That's going to be a really good game. That's going to be a really good game. Durkant says the Rams suck. Tampa's going to smack them. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs smacked the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised by that. The only outcome I'd be surprised by is if the Rams smacked the Bucs. Kendrick Lamar says, Saints have Bradley Roby now with Lattimore returning. Will Mac Jones have over 200? Yeah, he'll have over 200. Unless they are up big at the beginning of the game and they just run the ball. But I don't expect them to do that. So, is Lattimore playing? I'm not certain he's playing. Either way, though, I got the Pats. Jimmy says, I have the Bears winning 33-20, the Raiders 34-20, and the Seahawks winning 34-17. Bills winning 34-20. A lot of 34s. Interesting. Raccoon says, what teams do you think are under the radar? Okay, let's go through it for you guys. The Patriots. AFC North, nobody. AFC South, nobody. AFC West, the Broncos. I still think the Chargers are somewhat under the radar. NFC. Honestly, people are somehow, some way, they're sleeping on the Cowboys. Honestly. NFC North. I don't think anybody, to be honest. NFC South. Panthers for sure. NFC West. Nobody really. Everyone's kind of fairly rated there. So those would be my picks for under the radar. Do you think the Eagles can beat the Cowboys? I think they can beat the Cowboys. I'm just picking the Cowboys. Hot Take says it's the Seahawks money line, Cardinals money line, and Ravens money line parlay easy money. Nothing's easy money in the NFL, John, but I like the Seahawks because that's still pretty good odds you got there. Although you might just want to lay the number. If you can, just lay the 1.5 or whatever it is, because there's really no difference. The likeliness of the Seahawks winning the game and winning it by 1 is very, very low. Although you might come back here and that happens and then you like hate me now, but whatever, you know what I mean though. Cardinals money line. Cardinals are playing the Jags. Yeah, I was trying to think of who they played. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Ravens versus the Lions. You would think so. You would think so, yeah. That's not a bad play. Do you think the Bucs will sweep the NFC South? Well, I predicted them to go undefeated. So if I'm sticking by that prediction, yes. But they could lose to the Panthers or the Saints, and I wouldn't be that surprised. Mike says Tennessee's sleepers. I'm not with it. Their defense sucks. I'm not with the Titans. Their defense sucks. Afix says, did you honestly expect the Raiders to get off to this good of a start? No. Although, it's good to see. I agree with you, Dylan. I think the Cowboys have an argument to be in that mix. Coach says take the Canucks to not make the playoffs. Hot take. Will Fields remain the starter? Yes. Holden says it seems like the Chargers offense is clicking less with the new coaching staff. Do you think it will work out, or is their staff not good on offense? That's a good question. That is true, though. They could replace their OC down the road, but I'd give it a little bit more time. I think it might look a lot better versus the Chiefs. So we'll see how they look. I think a big problem for them has been the red zone. So if they can figure that out, then they can definitely score some more points. A lot of the times they've moved the ball, but they've stalled out at the red zone. So I definitely think they could improve. The defense, though, is nice to see. I think Brandon Staley's doing a good job as the head coach, but I definitely agree with you that there's been a lot left to be desired offensively. So I just want to give it more time. I do agree with your sentiment, though, on the comment. Raymond says, let's go Bucks. What's the Saints' problems? They have no receivers, no one to throw to. Their passing game, the reason they can't really pass the ball, when they have to pass the ball, they can't really pass the ball. They have to play a certain style. The Saints remind me a lot of the Patriots last year, where they have to play a certain way to win. And it's just very tough to win that way. Their defense, too, is lacking a little bit of depth in comparison to years past, but their defense is solid when everyone's there. They've had some issues with health, so we'll see moving forward. It's only been 2 games, but their biggest problem is their passing game. The Niners are a bit overrated, I would agree, based on the first 2 weeks. Ash says, trade Aaron Jones and Kelsey for McCaffrey and Pitts. Oh, man. Obviously, you like to have McCaffrey, man, but I would probably rather have Jones and Kelsey at this point. Coach says NFC's overrated except the Bucs. Maybe the Rams, that's it. Boys are the sleeper. Honestly, I just don't think the NFL is very good right now, but we'll see. We'll see who develops. Teams always develop down the road. All right, guys. I think that's it. Thanks for joining me for week number 3 NFL picks. Leave me your picks in the comment section below, and we will see you tomorrow for my best bets of week number 3. Also, guys, the live streams this week, remember, I said it off the top, but remember, if you didn't catch the 1 p.m. Eastern time slate, I'll be doing Patriots Saints. We're rolling with the Patriots game again. And then, of course, right after that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Los Angeles Rams, back-to-back streams here on the Bottom Line View, so make sure you tune in. Thanks for watching. Gronk, spike that like button. Peace.